everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Josie. Since this is a new channel, until I have 100 subscribers, I can only do a 15-minute video. So I'm going to do this in two parts. And what it is about, it's grieving the death of a child and how the siblings cope with all of this. Now, I will give you my disclaimer. First of all, this is not for children. I wouldn't advise anyone to allow their children to watch this. It's a very serious, sad subject. And second of all, I do not advise, or this is not a substitute for professional therapy. So I am going to start. I've made me a lot of notes, and I'm going to try to run through this as fast as I can. I will be happy when I can do my videos as long as I need to be. The death of a child. No two people grieve alike. A grieving couple may find it difficult to comfort each other when both feel equal grief. Each partner may expect too much and receive too little. Reactions and stress resulting from the pain of loss, not something lacking in their relationship. Divorce rate is 12 to 16% related to loss of a child. With understanding about grief, there will be fewer divorces. Now, I can say I relate to this because my daughter died in 1969, and 6 months later I divorced my husband. So not only did I have grief of losing a child, I also had the grieving stages of a divorce. And I will get onto that a little bit later. How the surviving children are affected. Most difficult role for a mother and father is to continue being a parent to the surviving children. It is like switching roles from grieving to comforter. Some parents become overprotective of their child, trying to keep them safe. Also, excuse me, which was difficult for me, is my daughter was 14 and a half months older than my older son. And because of her muscular dystrophy, she was very thin, very tiny. And at one point, they looked like twins. And it was just, I can't even explain. It was almost like I lost him too. I mean, they were almost, like I said, twins. He had caught up to her in size. And it was really difficult. And I'm not sure that I handled it correctly. At that time, there was not the therapy that there is now. There was no one to really talk to. And being my husband and I were both really young. So, grief and children. Preschool children usually see death as temporarily and think the person will return, like cartoon characters that come to life again. Well, with my situation, my son, when he went to bed that night, his sister was alive. When he woke up in the morning, she was dead. Can you imagine the horrible grief and not understanding what happened, what he had to carry? And as a parent, grieving, it's really difficult at that time to even understand that a child is going through as much as you are. So it's not that you neglect that child, but emotionally you do. You take care of their physical needs, but you do. And it's not condemning anyone or myself or anyone that's going through this. You'll never know what it's like until you actually go through it. And a child should not be forced to attend a funeral. Plan on honoring by lighting a candle, making a scrapbook, just looking at pictures. Natural reaction, fear, anger, and demanding attention, sometimes will show anger towards surviving members. Now, in my son's case, it took him a year later. One night he was crying. He was sitting on the edge of the bed and he was crying. And I asked him, I put my arm around him and I asked him, what the problem was or what was he upset about. And he looked at me and with tears in his eyes and said, "Mommy, am I going to die too?" Now, if I'd have had some therapy, if I would have had someone to talk to, I would have realized that he was going through as much or maybe even more than me. And also, I didn't allow him to attend the funeral because I thought it would frighten him. And yet he has kind of voiced over the years that he felt left out. But he was just a little boy. He was 8 years old. So it's something to think about if you go through this, talk to someone that you have confidence in, a family member, seek professional help. There's a lot of pros and cons to what to do. And there's no cut and dry answer. Grieving, there's no time limit either. Some people will say, well, get over it. In one way, eventually you do, because you go on with your life. You go on and you realize they're not suffering anymore. But if you're going through something like this, ignore people that say, oh, get over it, because they don't understand unless they lose a child or some other family member. When a parent dies, children may act younger than they are, wetting the bed, demanding certain foods. Sometimes the child feels guilty and blames themselves, may go into depression, lose interest in daily activities, inability to sleep, loss of appetite, or fear of being alone. Believe they're talking and seeing the dead person, withdrawal from friends. Now, I think each child is different. Each child is, and maybe nowadays with some of our programs on TV, not saying that they're good or bad, and social media, I think kids know more than maybe when I was raising my children. I think the hardest thing, though, for a parent, when you've lost a child, that is the worst loss that you will ever endure in this world. And I'm not saying it hurts any less when you lose a spouse or a mom or a dad, but a child is part of you, and as a woman, you carry that child. And it is hard on a husband too. Let's not forget, a man goes through just as much grieving as a woman. But it's very, very difficult. Understanding, and I will go through, like I said, I have to make my videos short until I get 100 subscribers. On my other channel, I have a series of the 5 grieving stages, and I will go through those again. But I really wanted to stress upon this, and I will go into more details. Children go through 4 stages of grieving. Adults, we go through 5 or 6. But the thing I want to stress the most is if you can get past that little hump and realize when you have other children. Now, what actually kept me going is I had a very small child, just a little over a year. So I had to get up in the morning, I had to care for my baby. And I don't feel like I neglected my other son, but I may not have sat down and actually listened to him like I should have, or talked to him about certain things. And that's a big regret in my life. But the main thing I am even stressing with any of my series is you need to talk about it. And if you don't have a trusted friend or a relative, then seek professional help. It is so important. And I'll say it and I'll say it again. There is no greater loss than losing a child. I don't care what happens to you. I don't care if you lose your home, if you lose every bit of the money that you have, if you lose friends, you can always get them again. You can always work hard, get the house back. You can always make new friends. But when you lose a child, you have hit, I will say, rock bottom. There'll be no greater stress in your life than losing a child. So I'm going to close this for now. I realize this channel is going to be very serious, but I am going to actually have some, what shall I say, some happiness in it too. Because if you believe, and what I will say, what got me through all of it is believing in God, believing in the Lord. And I will even go through some of the things that my daughter said before she passed away. So I am actually sharing part of my life that I didn't share in the past. But I have seriously considered how it might just help someone. And as I've said in my other channel, I'm in the process of writing my book. I started this many years ago and have never finished it, but I got motivated about 6 months ago and decided it needed to be finished. So that is my bucket list about finishing it. So stay tuned. I will do part 2. I will continue, and hopefully I didn't confuse you. And remember, this is not a substitute for professional help. I do hope I help someone, and talk to you in the next video. Bye, everyone.